And just like that, somehow we managed to get worse this offseason without losing a single player to free agency. What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be reviewing the Orioles offseason and giving it a overall grade rating for the entire offseason as well as each individual move. We're going to be starting with some of the minor moves like the Felix Hernandez signing, the Matt Harvey signing, all of that. And then we'll probably do the trades later on in the video. But let's get started with the minor league deals. The first one, and the one that's probably gotten the most attention and the most news surrounding it, is the Orioles signing Felix Hernandez, the former Cy Young Award winner from the Mariners. He also was with the Braves last spring training, but then he opted out of the season. And he had a pretty good spring training last season, pitching with, I believe, a 1.19 ERA. Very limited starts, obviously. It is spring training after all. Plus, there was the shutdown halfway through. So not your normal situation. However, there is reason to believe that he could have made the Braves starting opening day roster before he opted out. The positives of this move is obviously, out of all the guys, between him and Matt Harvey and Wade LeBlanc, he has the highest upside. He's won Cy Youngs before. He's had the most consistent career up until the past couple years when you've really seen him fall off a little bit. Probably mostly because of overuse on the Mariners. I feel like he'd still be pitching at a high level if his innings were probably managed a little bit better. You also got that veteran experience coming in. Obviously, a very good pitcher in his past who the young guys can go ask questions, learn a lot from, and just having a veteran leader in the clubhouse. It is a cheap contract. There's really no way they can lose on this contract. It's not like they're paying him a bunch of money. There's really no negatives to this outside of him just being he could be stealing a spot from a younger guy. That's pretty much the only negative to this contract. Not going to be any different from having Alex Cobb in the rotation. So for that, I'm going to give it a B. Next, we have Matt Harvey. Pretty much copy and paste everything I said about Felix Hernandez and put it here with Matt Harvey, except there's a lot worse of a track record with Harvey. He was really good with the Mets back when they made their World Series run. And I believe they lost to the Royals that year. But he was really good back then. Hasn't been good since, and there really hasn't been too many signs of him returning to form. I did see that he does do good in little short stints, but I just don't see him making a turnaround whatsoever. That being said, once again, you really can't lose on this deal. Worst comes to worst, you just cut him during spring training, so might as well give him a shot. So for that, since I don't see as much of a turnaround with him as I do Felix Hernandez. I'm giving the deal a C, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully he can turn it around. He was a fun pitcher to watch back when he was good, but I just don't see it happening personally. Next, we have Wade LeBlanc, one of the veteran pitchers from the team last season. He was a nice lefty arm coming from the Orioles rotation. Had a decent year, I feel like. You knew what to expect from him. That's the biggest positive with Wade LeBlanc. You know what you're going to get. He's been consistent his whole career. That being said, it hasn't been a good consistent. He's definitely a end of the rotation starter. Overall, I give this signing a B. Next, we have Thomas Eshelman, and this is the guy I was really happy to see that we brought back. Mainly because he's the youngest out of all these guys that I'm mentioning right now, and with younger players, typically they have more of a chance of showing more of an upside. They have a higher chance of impressing you, exceeding expectations than the older guys. Whereas a lot of the older guys, you know what you're going to see at that point in their careers. Eshelman's only been in the majors for, I believe, 2 years now. He's 26. He doesn't have as great of stuff. Like, his fastball, I think, tops out at like 88 miles per hour. Could hit the low 90s, I think. But he's typically not going to overpower you with his pitches. That being said, he had a really solid season in Baltimore last year. And I could see, I'd rather have him getting innings than a older guy like Felix Hernandez or Matt Harvey or Wade LeBlanc. So overall, I give this a B+. This is out of all the guys I'm going to mention that we signed to these little minor league contracts with a chance to make it to the major league roster in spring training. Eshelman's definitely going to be the guy I would pick to make the roster. Next, we have Fernando Abbad. One of his rougher seasons with an ERA above 4. That being said, it is a small sample size with a condensed season. So maybe he rebounds with a different staff. That being said, I'd rather see some younger arms in the bullpen than a veteran once again. That being said, it's a solid pickup. can definitely have an impact in the bullpen, and maybe he's like a Richard Blyer type that we flip halfway through the season for a prospect or two. Who knows? But overall, I gave this rating a B minus. It's once again, you can't, with all these contracts, you can't really give a negative rating because worst comes to worst, they just cut him. They didn't pay him much, so there's really not really, you can't really lose on these contracts. That's so I can't really give a negative rating. So B minus rating, and let's move on to probably the two most controversial moves the Orioles did this offseason that had a lot of fans upset, including myself. So let's start with the Orioles releasing Hanser Alberto. This move I found very, very questionable to say the least, and it was a little discouraging about what it could mean for the future of the franchise. If we aren't spending money on some fan favorites right now that are like $2 million contracts, I have a feeling we're heading more in the Rays direction where they don't keep stars around, which I don't think is good. I personally don't like that type of team. I mean, obviously it's worked with Tampa Bay, but it's just not as fun to watch. I think it puts out a worse product on the baseball field, in my opinion. Like, obviously, trading Blake Snell, there's no way Rays fans would like that. And that's what they did this offseason. So, like, I don't want to see us going down that road, even if it is the way for long-term success. And I think releasing Hanser Alberto kind of might be the first step to going in that direction. Because there really are no positives to this move. He wasn't a regular free agent. He wasn't going to make a ton of money. You could have gone to arbitration with him where he would have made $2 million max. If you're not paying that during a rebuild, like for that type of player, who's probably the fan favorite player right now, especially with Trey Mancini, who was out last year. I don't like what the message that sends to the fans. Obviously, Alberto's not in the long-term plans at all. It was going to happen eventually. If anything, they'd keep him around as a bench, bat off the bench. But that's it. Like he wasn't going to be our starting second baseman of the future by any means. That being said, there's no obvious replacement for him. We don't have a Gunnar Henderson or a Adley Rutschman sitting in the wings at second base, or at least we didn't when this move was made. So it was very, very questionable to me. That being said, we'll get into it a little bit. We do have Yolmer Sanchez and Freddie Galvez now, which I do think is a little bit of an upgrade over Alberto. But like I said, you're getting rid of a fan favorite who you could have had back. Like, there's nothing stopping you from bringing Alberto back. He didn't even really sign with another team for a big contract, so there's no reason he shouldn't have been back on this roster. If anything, you could have put him on the bench. And like I said, he's not holding any young guys back either. Maybe Rylan Bannon, but you can put him at different positions. You could have put Alberto at DH. You could have put Alberto at third. But I'll go back and get back more into Hanser Alberto as a player when I get to the Yolmer Sanchez news. But overall, I'm giving this rating an F. There's no positives to this move whatsoever. And I was really, really disappointed to see this happen during this offseason. Along with the Hanser Alberto news, we also had the Renato Nunez news that they released him. And this is the same exact situation. That being said, I don't think it is as bad as Alberto because I don't see Nunez really fitting in on this year's team. I didn't see that happening from the very beginning since like last offseason. I don't really see that happening with Mancini coming back, Mountcastle in the majors now, and having to keep Chris Davis on roster. There really is no spot for Renato on this team. As good as his bat was, you're not going to pay too much for a DH only. And even then, I'd rather give guys like Rylan Bannon a opportunity at DH. The biggest problem with Renato Nunez for his whole time at Baltimore was his defense. And Rio Ruiz has shown flashes of being Renato Nunez at the plate. He hasn't been as consistent as Nunez, but he's shown flashes, and he's much better defensively. And at first base, we're obviously going to have Trey Mancini there this year. At least I'd be shocked if he was in the outfield. And even then, Ryan Mountcastle would probably be at first if Mancini isn't. So there's really no spot for Nunez. That being said, it sucks to lose your home run leader and one of your biggest offensive presences. Overall, I'm giving this a C-. I don't like the deal. I don't like that we're releasing him. But that being said, there really wasn't a place for him on this upcoming team, and definitely not in the future of the Baltimore Orioles. So I'm going to miss watching him play. He was one of the more fun players to watch during the rebuild. But like I said, it's part of what's going to happen during this rebuilding process. Next, let's talk about Yolmer Sanchez, who's probably going to be the opening day second baseman as of right now. This is a big upgrade over Alberto in the field. He's can possibly win a Gold Glove, where Hanser Alberto looked lost in the field at times. As much as I enjoyed watching Alberto play, sometimes he just wasn't there in the field. Whereas now you're going to potentially have a Gold Glove winner at second base. Really strengthens that middle of the infield. And when you look at the stats, he really isn't that much worse than Hanser Alberto at the plate. He might hit a little bit less average, but he tends to see the ball better. He's not always swinging at the first pitch. That was the big critique of Hanser Alberto. He was really aggressive at the plate, which tended to work out for him. But when pitchers adjust, I see that going worse for Alberto over the years as pitchers adjust to him, whereas Sanchez has more longevity to his stats, I feel like. Not a long-term option, but a nice placeholder until we get a legit second baseman for the future starting in the majors. And who knows, maybe Sanchez starts playing really well at the plate and he places himself into future plans. Who knows? But overall, I gave this rating a B. Next, we had the signing of Freddie Galvez, who was the replacement for Jose Iglesias after he was traded. We'll get to that move in a moment. Does not get on base as much as Jose Iglesias, but he does add a little bit of power at the plate. He hits much more for power than Jose Iglesias does normally. But we'll see what he does at the plate this year. When you look at the stats in the field, they're near identical between Jose Iglesias and Freddie Galvez. That being said, I'd prefer Jose Iglesias because overall he is just a little bit higher stat-wise in the field, has a better fielding percentage overall than Galvez, and hopefully just be a solid addition in the lineup that you know what you're getting from him, and it'll be consistent night in and night out. So overall, I gave this rating a B. Next, we have the big trades of the offseason. We got Alex Cobb for Jamai Jones. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But Michael Elias once again robs the Angels until probably June when Alex Cobb is in the Cy Young race like Dylan Bundy was last year. But we'll see what happens with Cobb. Either way, if you're telling me a couple months ago that we're going to get a top 30 prospect for Alex Cobb, I'd say sign me up every single day of the week. But this was a great deal for the Orioles. This was probably the best move they made all season by a long shot. Unfortunately, Cobb just hasn't been able to stay healthy with the Orioles. I really wish he would have. I feel like he could have pitched to a much higher level if he was able to stay healthy. But that being said, he's never had an ERA under 4 with the Orioles. He's never been healthy. He really hasn't done much for this team. As unfortunate as it is, I think Cobb's a great guy. He was a great pitcher with the Tampa Bay Rays. But we just haven't seen that with the Orioles at all. But we did get the Angels' number 7 prospect in Jamai Jones, who is now the Orioles' number 19th prospect. Another great thing about picking up Jones is he is Major League ready. He made his Major League debut last season with the Angels. That being said, I could see Elias putting him at AAA to begin the season. If you're getting a top 30 prospect for Alex Cobb, you made a good deal. So obviously A+ move for the Orioles. I'll take this every day of the week. And hopefully Jones turns into a great player and maybe the second baseman of the future. Next, we have Jose Iglesias for Garrett Stallings and Gene Pinto. There's really not too much information on these guys. Stallings is right out of college. He hasn't played a professional game yet. And Pinto his only experience has been in the Dominican Summer League. That being said, they're both really young. They're both pitchers. You can never have too much pitching depth. Stallings is currently rated number 27 in the Orioles' top 30 prospects, so that's a good sign. So overall, I do think we got a solid return here. I would have liked to possibly see more, but either way, Jose Iglesias, we don't know what they were getting for Jose Iglesias. All we do know is that Iglesias' trade stock will never be higher again. So I do think it really works out. This was the time to trade him, so whatever you could get for him, I'd definitely take it. So overall, I give this a B+. So my overall all-season rating for the Orioles is going to be a B+. Those trades really carried the off-season grade. Like those trades were fantastic moves by Elias. Even if I do wish we would have gotten a little bit more for Iglesias, it's still a very solid move. And the Alex Cobb trade was fantastic. Great move by the Orioles front office. The only thing I'd like to see done differently is probably keep Alberto and Nunez. Even if they're just hanging out on the bench. I don't see too many new young guys taking their place, at least this year. I think the most notable guy is probably Rylan Bannon. But that's about it. That's the only difference I would make. I do think we probably should have instead of going after some of these older pitchers like Felix Hernandez and Matt Harvey, I think we should start letting some of these 24 to 26 year olds that we have in the minors start getting them a chance at the big leagues. But yeah, hopefully we start seeing some of these young pitchers come up, get some experience instead of some of these older guys. But overall, solid offseason by the Orioles. Obviously, it's not going to be too splashy until they get some solid pieces from the minor leagues up to the majors, and the rebuild kind of kicks into the gear of competing. But when you're in a rebuild, this is about as good of an offseason as you can hope for. But we'll see what happens in the upcoming season. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, I'll be posting content every week, especially leading up to opening day. We'll be doing a lot of Orioles content, a lot of Major League Baseball content during the season. So definitely, if you're a fan of baseball, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.